Alright, this is a side-by-side comparison of 4 pairs of Softstar shoes that you can see from starting from the left, and 1 pair of Lenka shoes. I believe they're the Ace, Lenka Ace on the far right. And then you will also see me walking around in my pink Crocs. So these are the shoes that I own and that I have worn for up to 2 years at this point now. And I will show you how they fit for me, what they look like, and also how they compare to each other. So we'll start first with the Primal RunAmoc Megagrips over here. These ones have the Megagrip sole, as you can see. So it's a lot thicker of a sole in comparison to, say, the Sawyer, and also in comparison to even the regular RunAmocs. These ones are the lightning soles, this one's the Megagrip. You can see the depth of the tread is quite a bit different between these two versions of the RunAmoc. And then here, so these are the Sawyers. These are the special leopard print ones. They're a lot softer than the regular Sawyers that you see on their website. It's much smoother and much softer leather. And the laces are also slightly smoother in comparison to the regular Sawyers. And then over here is the Moc3. This is my first pair of Softstar shoes. If you want to see a comparison of what the sole looks like, these are the Moc3s, and this is a much sturdier, much firmer Megagrip tread or sole. And there's also a little bit of a height difference between these two. This is extremely light. This is comparatively much heavier. And then you have this one, which is maybe second in weight compared to the Moc3s. And then this one is relatively light and feels like a single unit when you lift it and when you wear it. This one feels a little bit chunkier in the bottom, the weight distribution wise. This one does kind of feel like a single unit, but because of the way the edge is, it's a little clumsier feeling. But we'll go over all of these shoes in more detail. I'll leave the Lenka Aces for last because I don't think Lenka makes these shoes anymore. I don't think they use them in this print or in this sole shape and in this kind of texture anymore. So we'll start with the Megagrips over here. I'm going to rearrange my shoes. And then you also see that my pink Crocs are here. These are my casual shoes that I used to wear just, walking around the house. Not very much for casual walking, I would say. If I were to do a mile or two, I'd probably not wear these because you can see there's a little bit of an arch to the shoe. It's still relatively light, but there's an arch to the shoe. So we'll just show them as they are, like these on the side, these in the back, and side. There's not a lot of flexibility. But these are my Crocs. Alright, we'll put these Softstars on. These Megagrips are extremely of a much harder sole. So you see when I do these, I don't have have them laced up currently. This is normally how I wear them in casual walking settings. I'll show you what they look like when they're laced up as well. A little bit less give in the soles. And that's how they look like. Let's say if I have capris. Tie these up now and show you what they look like. I have traditionally worn them as is without tying the laces up because I like having a little bit more flexibility in the top of my foot, not where my toes are, but where the middle of my foot is. And you would see, like, some people have asked in your questions, they'd be like, oh, do you recommend the RunAmocs over the Sawyers? And I've always said that it's just a little, there's more flexibility in the Sawyers than in the RunAmocs, especially in the midfoot area, which is partly why I keep my laces either untied but secure, or I have them tied but they're relatively loose. They're kept relatively loose. I'm not securing the entire shoe around my foot with shoelaces because of the discomfort that I often find in the midfoot area. So as you can see here, I have them laced up now. And they're really tiny laces at the very end so that I still have a lot of flexibility in this area so I can move my shoe this way and tug it accordingly, because it's normally in this area right here where you see there's 2 layers, maybe even 3 layers of leather or fabric or material, and that's when it feels a little snug. Normally it's kind of around this area or on this area of the shoe. So that's why I keep them kind of loose in the front here. And the same thing on the side. And this pair of shoes, I think the one that I find uncomfortable is right here on this spot, on this specific shoe. This shoe is actually pretty comfortable overall. And that's kind of the one downside, but you can see that I have pretty good room, pretty sufficient room in my toe area, but I've also actually stuffed it with rags and stuff to kind of keep this area nice and roomy. But that doesn't seem to be the part that bothers me. It's mostly, like I said, in this area of the shoe. So that's what it looks like with shoelaces. A little more secure. That's what the RunAmoc Megagrips, that's what they look like, and that's what they feel like, at least as far as visually. All right, next up, it's gonna be my Primal Sawyers. Oh, I should note that the Megagrips are actually slightly on the shorter side because I actually did not get the correct size. The ones that I just showed you, those are 7U wide, which if you see on Softstar's website, they always say size up for Primal RunAmocs, and I should have actually done an 8U regular instead of 7U wide. But they fit fine for me for most casual events. I have taken a hiking once, and on the descent of the hike, I think I felt a little bit more pressure on the toe area of my foot. I think partly was because I didn't lace it up correctly, and I was keeping it loose, which is why my foot was sliding forward, but also partly because it's not quite the right size for me. But I happen to be right at the edge between regular 6U and 7U. I think I'm 24 centimeters, which 6U goes up to 23.9, and 7U starts at 24 centimeters. So for me, it's just really a 0.1 centimeter difference, and so it's not quite that noticeable. If you're maybe in the middle of the sizing, then you probably could not get away with wearing shoes that are one size down from what you normally would be able to wear. I just happened to be lucky when I got those, and they still fit even though it wasn't the perfect fit. So these are the Sawyers. You can see they're extremely soft and flexible. That is my toe. And it does feel a little bit like there's a separation between the fabric on the top of the shoe and the sole a little bit, but just very slightly. And these are probably the ones that I get the most attention of all the shoes that I've worn from Softstar, for probably noticeable reasons, because they're in such a distinct pattern. These ones are also actually a little bit bigger for me. These ones are 7U wide. I probably should have gotten 7U regular. I got these in clearance, and I thought I have to get these, which I do not regret, but they are a little bit on the wider side. There's lots of room on both sides of my foot. If you want to see what that looks like right here, there's this much space on both sides of my shoe, and maybe this much space on the front side of my shoe. That's what they look like if, let's say, I had something shorter on, and this is what they look like if I had pants or dresses or skirts that are slightly longer. The one downside to these being a little wider is sometimes I end up stepping on my own shoes a little bit because they're a little bit wider than what I'm used to. But overall, I really like them. I guess I should show what this looks like in the front as well. And there you have it, Primal Sawyers. Next up is the Moc3s. These are my favorite walking shoes, and my very, very first pair of Softstars. And when I first got them, I was quite disappointed because of how asymmetrical they looked. But as I've worn them more, I really, really like the ground feel, and I do not regret having these pair of shoes. So you can see this side of the shoe is a little bit more angled, and this one is a little bit just maybe more like a Primal size, and this is more like a regular size, which is kind of strange, but they fit okay. And they're in Softstar's leather light. Which is supposedly supposed to be a little bit more breathable for warmer weather. And then if I had longer pants, this is what they look like. our Moc 3s. I'll show you the bottom of the sole in a little bit. It's quite unique in that this is the bottom of the shoe. This is the bottom of the shoe, and they have a little foot-shaped pattern on it. So it's very, very minimal and very, very flexible. So we'll see a close-up of them a little bit later. Now we have the regular RunAmocs. Now these ones I got brand new and in the correct size that I should have gotten them. And I will say that they fit really well. I have these ones laced up already. So I'll just wear them as laced up. Again, I do keep a little bit more room in the shoelace area. It's a little less obvious in this pair because the shoelaces on this pair of shoes, the newer version, are slightly stretchier. Just a little bit stretchier in the shoelaces. These are my go-to shoes in many occasions. Whatever occasion that I could fit these shoes in, I would wear them. I've worn them walking, I've worn them for teaching, for perhaps slightly less formal events, probably not quite suitable for formal wear. This is what they look like. Alright, the final pair is the Lenka Aces. I don't have any other pair of shoes from Lenka. I have tried ordering from them once and was greatly disappointed by the difference in sole and material and fit, and just basically in every way that I would wear a shoe. And these are probably the only pair that I will ever own from Lenka. And they are really convenient to wear. They're really comfortable too. And they're kind of discreet, which is a nice combination. I have socks on for these because these shoes are due for washing. So they might be a little distracting, and I apologize for that, but this is what they look like. I got these secondhand. This was actually my very first pair of barefoot shoes before I got the Moc3s. Actually, no, this is my second pair after I got the Moc3s. And I really like the pattern of it too. Slightly stretchy upper. I don't think these are made of natural materials. But it fits really well on my foot. And they don't actually look too wide because of the way the pattern is. And this is what it looks like. Again, I'm sorry about my socks. This is what they look like when they're, if you wear something a little shorter. Alright, now we'll talk about the soles of each of these shoes. Start with the Lenkas. These ones have the laces are actually, I mean, you could kind of tighten them a little. They're also slightly stretchy, I think. No, the laces are not stretchy, the fabric is stretchy. So I'll show you, you can kind of do that with the fabric. And they're slip-ons. The laces are really, they're not functional, but you can tighten them up, but you can't really, other than that, it doesn't secure your foot to the shoe. This elastic is the part that secures your foot to the shoe. I think the way that all of this is made is really nice. Nicely done, very nicely designed. The sole is just right. Maybe some people might complain about the pinky toe being a little maybe short, but I think the width really helps with that challenge. You can see it's the length of shoes. They have insoles that come with them, and they're removable, so you can decide if you want to take them out or not. And the soles are just kind of, there's not a lot of tread left on these, but they're pretty sturdy overall. So these are the B Lenkas. And we'll go backwards with the Primal RunAmocs. These ones have a much shinier leather on them. And you'll see here that the laces are just a little bit stretchy. Slight give on that. And that helps with when you put on your shoes, when you just need a little bit of a stretch to fit your foot in. It's nice. They have little heel cups in here. You can see the sewing on the outside. That's where the heel cups are. And that's really nice. It helps keep the shoe very snug. As you can see in these ones, I've also stretched out the top a little bit. But all of this is relatively soft and flexible all around. Again, I think on these pair of shoes, it was also my right shoe in this area. There's I think it's because the tongue of the shoe is sewn in right around here to the rest of the shoe. So that's where there's a little bit more pressure, a little bit more material, and a little less flexible. Like see, even if I push my finger right here, you see how there's a big bump that comes out, as opposed to if I push my finger right here where it's a lot softer. And so that's the challenge for me with fitting for these shoes is just that. Sometimes there's one pair that I tried that had it on this side, but I just happen to have both shoes that have an uncomfortable spot right here. And that's the lightning sole. I've had these about 6 months now. Yes, and this is about how much wear I've gotten out of them so far. I maybe wear these about once to twice a week, and I take pretty good care of my shoes too, but they seem like they still have a lot of life left in them. These ones have little black shiny stars in them, which is another type of fabric I think that you can, or another type of color you can specify when you order the Primal RunAmocs if you did the customized version. But as you can see, it's really not that obvious. And if you went with that, you might as well just go with straight black, because that little bit of stars is really not going to be very visible. These ones only have the stars on the V's. It's not on the entire shoe. Of course, if you get it on the entire shoe, then it might look a little different. But regardless, it's not very visible. It looks a little like you stuck them on. So I don't know if that's quite what people will want to go for if they knew. And notice how this part of the shoe kind of sinks forward. I don't know if these ones do that. Oh yeah, these ones also do that. So you can see that between these two pair of shoes. but there's a little bit of angle forward, like that. Okay, we're gonna go into the Moc3s. Like I said before, these ones have, this is the bottom of the shoe. This is where my foot would go, and that's, I put my fingers in here, and that's my finger. So it's only a few layers of material between the foot and the ground. And then they have this added shape of a foot that's added onto it, and that part is a little bit firmer. And this part is just your foot. So depending on what you step on, if let's say you step on a rock and you land right here, that's gonna be there's a lot of contact between your foot and the rock, as opposed to if you stepped on it in this area of the shoe. And I said that these ones were asymmetrical. Notice how this one goes up a little bit more, this one is more rounded. These are not part of the Primal collection, and I really love the ground feel, but fit wise, I think it's actually, I could use a little more room, especially on that left foot, where it probably would have come out more if it was a Primal shoe. But I really like these for the ground feel, so I have kept them for walking. And these are supposed to be reflectives. I think they've kind of worn down. These are about 2 years old now, so they've kind of worn down a little bit on that side. And they also had the very prominent Softstar tags there, which I wasn't a huge fan of, but I normally wear long pants, so it doesn't really matter too much to me. These ones, I think they have the tags, RunAmoc have the tags inside the shoe, so there's no visible marking on the shoe that shows that it's a Softstar shoe. And the Lenkas have this little B in the back, but that's about it. Alright, these are all my black shoes. And then I will now go on to the Sawyers and the Megagrips. So the Sawyers have a lot of flexibility. We already talked about the leather being really soft and smooth. These are sweet, however you pronounce them. These ones were in clearance, so there's a little bit of slight blemish here. Otherwise, everything else on the shoe is great. This one has I think it's a pyramid sole, so it has a little bit of flexibility in the sole that way. It's a little higher up in the shoe. I think these ones do not have as much of an angle leaning forward compared to the other 3 pairs of shoes that we have here. Let me see how I can sort these out so they're not confusing. This one is much more vertical in comparison. This one has a little bit of an angle, I think. Maybe this one is kind of its own version, because even the bottom of the shoe is not quite flat anyway. But they all have a little bit of an angle leaning forward. And then finally we have the Megagrips, which are again, it's the RunAmoc design, so you still have them at an angle. And then also, but this sole is comparatively a lot more rigid. It's still flexible, but you have to kind of tug on it a little bit more. This one is extremely flexible. I'm using the same amount of weight, and look how much of the shoe is bending in comparison to this. And in comparison to this. And finally in comparison to this. So you notice how the bend is a little different from shoe to shoe. That's entirely based on the sole and its flexibility, I guess. Of course, then there's also a question of traction, and these are known to be really good with traction. Like, I took them hiking and they were fine, and they were fine, yeah, like in mud conditions and wet conditions. None of that has quite held up in the same way in terms of traction compared to these shoes. I have even worn them out in snow, and they were fine in snow and ice. I think most shoes are probably not great in ice anyway, but these ones were felt relatively secure compared to many other shoes. Of course, the problem with the snow is that they'll kind of get stuck in between these treads and then it becomes slippery all over again. So just kind of have to be careful in those conditions. But when it's wet conditions, these are fine. These are fine. These ones, I think they're okay because of how much ground feeling you're feeling. So your foot is really planted into the ground. These ones I probably would not recommend in rain, especially when it's really wet. I walked on these in mall floors at malls, and they sometimes get a little bit slidey already. These are the only ones I would say that are slightly slippery in comparison. But they're so cute, so I totally would keep them. So there you have it. These are the 5 different shoes that I personally own. And I don't know if I would consider getting any other kind of shoe at Softstar. I think I probably would stick to the Sawyers and the RunAmocs. And I'll keep these pair of Moc3s, but I probably will not get them again. Hopefully, if they do come up with a Primal sized Moc3s, I would absolutely jump on that. But other than that, I don't think there are any of the other models that I personally would wear in terms of fit for my shoes. So there you have it. The sun is setting, and I think it's a good time to end this video. I hope this was helpful.